Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
Today, it is our pleasure to welcome back to the show our good friend David Aldridge, of course, senior writer at The Athletic. Had the pleasure of sitting next to DA at the press conference on Sunday. And DA, the pleasure was getting to sit next to you and chat for a little bit, not what we witnessed, just to be very, very clear. That was
very much so.
That was ugly. They gave up it's 90-25 over the last two games. Da, it's not great. And I think a lot of us have started kind of looking towards the offseason and how much hope do you have for that? We're doing the Sam Howell bit. What's the most interesting thing to you for the next 5 weeks, and then the 4 games?
Oh man, I mean, Craig, it's a good question. I'm not really sure that there's a whole lot that is left for me to see about this team. You can kind of know what this team is and where they are. It's not like they have 7 guys that have been on the practice squad all year, and I can't wait to see them play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they could incorporate Cole Turner a little bit more. I'd like to maybe see what he could do. There's a few guys, but, their receivers are their receivers. Their backs are their backs. Their line is their line, both lines. There's no hidden gems anywhere. So it's really more just a matter, I think, of do we have enough information on Sam Howell? I mean, I think we have a lot now. Is it enough? I mean, if he was great the last 4 games, would that change materially what most people think of him and his potential? And conversely, if he was awful the last 4 games, would that cement what people think of him? Maybe there's some wiggle room with Sam, but I think, I'll just speak for myself. It's just hard for me to find something to go, boy, I can't wait to see this. I can't wait to see how they handle this the last 4 games. I think we kind of have our answer. It's pretty clear that what we thought was going to be a contending team, I think most of us were way wrong. And when I say contending, I don't mean for a Super Bowl, but I just mean for a wild card play.
Right.
I thought, I think this team could win 9 games, or 8 games, something in there, right?
Right.
I figured
that's certainly where I was.
Yeah. And so 9 and 8 probably gets you in, right? Or 8 and 9 gets you close. So I thought they were in there somewhere. And the fact that they have been just the collapse of the defense to me is staggering. It's just staggering to me that this group, that again, it's not like we were grasping at straws at the beginning of the year. They were coming off a top 10, top 5 level play defensively last year. And they were returning just about everybody and a healthy Chase Young. So I don't know. Of course you would think they're going to take a big step. And they took 3 steps in the opposite direction. And it's crazy.
Well, I want to circle back to the Howell thing because I think that's certainly the most interesting and probably the most relevant as well. But now that it feels like the book has been written on this defense, I mean, I'm just hoping Rivera can get it to a place. Miami, throw it out. They're Miami offensively. They're great,
right.
Whatever. But I hope that we can get a better feel for some of these guys in a simpler defense over these last 4 games. That is my very, very low bar of hope. But as we look back on the book that's written about where this defense went wrong, where do you think that one starts and ends?
Well, I'm going to start by pushing back just a little bit on it. And I think that's part of the problem with this organization. Is you go, well, Miami's really good. Yeah, Miami's good. Yeah, they're a good team. You have to beat good teams too.
For sure. I just mean if I'm going to evaluate Quan Martin based off of week 1 in Rivera's defense against Miami implemented mid-season, I'm only going to put so much stock in that compared to does he improve over the next 4?
Yeah, but there's a difference between fighting and competing and losing 27-17 or something like that and just getting boat raced at home again. Look, Miami's good. I'm not saying they're not good. Dallas is good. But you still can – there's teams that have competed with those 2 teams this year that aren't 12-1, and have and have put some good tape on. That was a give up to me. Like, oh, we can't compete with them. There's nothing we can do, and that's part of the problem here. I think is there's just a lot. It was a lot of give up. So defensively, what's going wrong? I mean, I just think the secondary they just took a major step backwards this year, and I'm not going to assign a percentage of who's responsible. How much of it is the scheme is just way too complicated for them, and how much of it is they're playing two rookies a lot. They drafted two rookies and played them, and they weren't ready. And how much of it is, losing your starting safety early in the season that you were counting on, and really not replacing him in a way that was effective. I mean, and how much of it is Chase Young didn't play like we thought he would, being healthy, and wasn't as impactful. I mean, it's probably all of that, right? I mean, it's a lot. It's probably, and the linebackers. I mean, again, I'm not singling out Jamin Davis. He's had some really effective moments, in the run game especially. He's been nice in terms of fit and where he needs to be, but the coverage is just not there. It's not there. It gets hunted every week. It's like a pick and roll in the NBA. They hunt him every week with a circle pattern or some sort of wheel route every single week, And so there's just nobody that's taken a step in the right direction on the defense this year. Nobody.
Yeah, no, I think that to me is the thing that's so maddening, is like, how does everybody play worse? There's not an exception, and obviously coaching comes into play there. I do think that I think the guy. I mean, to me though, the two most disappointing guys are Allen and Payne, where they haven't been good and effective, and it does lead to the question of, like, next year, what do you want to do with those guys? As John Allen is being very honest and human and saying, of course I've thought about playing somewhere else. Why would I keep wanting to do this? I don't fault him for saying that. That is an incredibly human thought. And if he's not thinking that, that's actually, to me, a bigger problem. Of course he should want to win. You got to just be a part of the solution ultimately if you're going to be here. But did those guys suddenly become bad football players, or is there something larger at play? And I think for them, it's harder to understand what the larger thing at play might have been.
Here's what I think. I mean, again, I wrote this the other day. I think John Allen's been kind of nicked all year. He got hurt in preseason.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been 100% all year. That's just me. I could be wrong.
I think at the very least, like, that injury set him back, and he's never caught up, if not still bothering him.
Yeah, I agree. And so that's what I think with him. I think it's a combination of that and, post-trades, why on earth would you spend any time worrying about what any of the defensive ends are doing? You're just going to double Allen and Payne as much as you can and limit their effectiveness getting up the field and being disruptive and doing the things that they normally are able to do, because you do have to pay some attention to Montez Sweat or Chase Young. And so I think that's at least part of why they've been ineffective. But the bottom line is they've been ineffective. I mean, you're exactly right. They have not been anything approaching the forces they were the previous 2 or 3 years inside. And that's, they're the catalyst. Now, to your question about Jonathan Allen, I don't think the solution is just trade everybody and start over and, go 3-12 for the next 3-15 or whatever the record would be for the next 3 years. I don't think that's the solution either. I'd like to think you could at least try to start to fix this. But having said that, Craig, if there's one area where maybe they can say, look, we've got a little bit of depth, it's the defensive line, especially defensive tackle. You do have Fedarian Mathis. You do have Ridgeway there. You do have guys that are, solid players, if not superstars. So if you wanted to move one of Allen or Payne for whatever reason, I mean, you could do that and not suffer catastrophic losses in that particular position group. I don't know that I would want to do that, because you're not going to replace Jonathan Allen with somebody better than Jonathan Allen right now. Unless you use that fifth pick in the draft on somebody on the defensive line, which would make absolutely no sense, right? I think we all agree on that.
Yes.
But again, the bottom line is they haven't gone up certainly none of the ends that replaced Young and Payne have gone up, or Sweat have gone up, have done anything. They have one sack the last 3 games. We've talked about the linebackers. Barton, I don't think Barton's been as bad as people make him out to be, but he certainly hasn't, moved the needle, obviously, in any meaningful way.
Sure.
And then the secondary, I just don't know what to make out of that. I don't know what I'm not qualified to break down exact, but all I can tell you is what I see. And I don't see anybody, playing the position confidently or quickly. There's a lot of, it just seems like there's the same overthinking, playing slow, flipping, 2 guys go to one guy's wide open. Like, it's again, every week, it's the same thing.
Yes. No, then that is the definition of insanity. They've kept trying the same thing, expecting a different result, and it's driven us all insane. David Aldridge is with us here on the Hoffman Show, of course, senior columnist at The Athletic, writing about DC sports. We'll also get to some NBA stuff with DA in just a moment. But I do want to circle back to Howell, because you sound like you've kind of made up your mind on what you think of him. So what is that as we project forward on Sam Howell?
I think Sam Howell has a chance to be a top half of the league quarterback, right? Like if you improve the things, again, on both sides of the ball, because defense helps him too, right? I mean, you have to fix the defense to help Sam Howell too. But if you made enough right picks and you signed enough right free agents to fix enough of the team going forward, I think Sam Howell's ceiling is he's somewhere in the top half. Right? Can he be top 10? Probably. That may not be his ceiling. But would you live with a top 12 quarterback? Of course you would. Why wouldn't you? I would. I'd be fine with
especially
that.
if the next couple of years he's on the deal that Sam's going to be on.
Exactly. And that's the biggest selling point in his candidacy for this, right? Is his contract. But I do think he's made a lot of progress. He's made some really good throws. I think he's worked on getting the ball out faster. Does he still make mistakes? Yes, lots of them. But it's not without hope at that position. Now, you can make the argument, Craig, and I'm sure many will, that if they wind up with a top 3 pick, they have to take one of the quarterbacks. You can make that argument. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think there's a chance for him to get better going forward. But here's the rub. Here's the problem with it. I don't know that he gets better unless he's with Bieniemy for another year. You know what I mean? And the reasoning is I think this team has been part of why this team has struggled so much is that the lack of continuity from year to year is just staggering. There's just been very few positions other than Nate Kaiser with special teams where they've had the same guy for more than 3 years in the same system, and everybody knows what they are supposed to do. And to give Sam Howell, not to even mention poor Terry McLaurin, yet another offensive system that he has to learn now. It just, boy, I don't know that that's going to I don't think that makes a lot of sense either. Now, it's not all in their control with Bieniemy, of course. He can leave, if he's up for an NFL job or a college head coaching job and he wants to leave, he can leave. But with the Howell question, to me, it's like, would Ben Johnson be able to help him? Yes, of course. I'm not saying that Eric Bieniemy is the only guy that can coach him. I'm saying that the progress they've made in this system this year, I would like to see them build on that for once, as opposed to starting over and having the same growing pains again next year because you have a new offensive coordinator again. I mean, that would be 3 in 3 years. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I would say the good news on that front is they run a West Coast system, which the person they're going to hire, I would assume, would also run a West Coast system. Like if you're getting someone off the Shanahan tree.
I hope so, but we don't know that. I mean, I would like to think you're right, but we don't know that because we don't know who the GM is going to be, do we?
Sure. We don't know. But if we look at the top candidates and the names that are bantied about on the offensive side of the ball, it's your Ben Johnson. He's the number 1 candidate everywhere. And I think these guys are going to be in the mix to get him, which is great. Obviously, there's a pull of home in Charlotte, and he's a Carolina guy. He's going to potentially have Justin Herbert to work with. He's going to have Caleb Williams and a bunch of money in Chicago. But I think working for Josh Harris is appealing. And if you like Sam Howell, that's appealing. But you're also looking at like Bobby Slowick in Houston and what he's done with C.J. Stroud and some of the other folks off of the Shanahan, McVay, whatever tree that I think would be McDaniel, by the way. This Miami staff's got some potential future head coaches on it, and they run that same West Coast system with similar terminology, similar route concepts that are just hopefully detailed up a lot better. And also, I think the thing that I struggle with Bieniemy, DA, is how much he put on Sam this year. Like, I don't like the fact that he's leading the NFL in passing attempts. I think that's a terrible way to treat a young quarterback, and it hinders his development. And they've been trying to sell us this growth and development thing all year, which clearly everyone is sick of at this point, internally, nevertheless externally. But I actually don't know that they helped him as much as they could because of the system that he was in this year, this version of it that Bieniemy ran.
I mean, look, I don't disagree with you that they probably throw the ball way too much, right? For any quarterback, much less a young one, right? But we know where Eric Bieniemy came from. I heard this for 12 years in Philadelphia, and he throws the ball too much. Like, that's just those people from the Andy Reid system tend to throw the ball too much. Like, that's just kind of baked into how they see the world of football, and so. I mean, they probably did drop him back too much, especially early, obviously, when he probably didn't have enough of a understanding of shifting protections and calling things out at the line that could help him, and just getting the ball out faster. I think they did make adjustments to it, and they've gotten better at it. And again, it's Eric Bieniemy's first year too, right? So I mean, I think some grace has to be extended to him as well. Everybody acts like, well, we all know everything we need to know about Eric Bieniemy. This is his first year as an offensive coordinator. First. And so he gets the opportunity to make mistakes and grow and learn too, I would like to think. But we'll see. Again, it's a 4-9 team. There's no sacred cow anywhere in this organization. And I'm not going to be mad at Josh Harris or anybody to say, no, all of you can go.
Totally.
Yeah. But in terms of your question about Howell, I would just like to see a little continuity going forward to see how much better they can get. And maybe the answer is they can't get any better. I don't know, but I'd like to see.
Yeah, I think this year will benefit Bieniemy in the future, no matter where he is, whether he gets to apply what he's learned here or elsewhere. TBD. All right, last but not least with DA, of course, the Pro Basketball Hall of Famer, former Kurt Gowdy Award winner. Actually, DA, is that something, did I say that correctly? Are you a former Kurt Gowdy Award winner, or are you just, once you're it, you're it? You're a Kurt Gowdy Award winner.
I'm still a Kurt Gowdy Award winner.
Yeah, that's true. I just didn't know if it's like you wanted an X year and such. It's phrased that way. Then I realized that probably wasn't correct.
Award winner.
You're still in the Hall of Fame. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's like Pat Sullivan won the Heisman. He's not a former Heisman Trophy winner. He just won it in 1970.
I did not know that 1970, but that's a me thing. That's fine.
I think it was 70 or was it 71? It was
you know what? I don't think anyone's counting. The point is, David knows as much about the NBA as anyone. He's in the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. He's Kurt Gowdy Award winner. And DA, last night was fun as hell watching these quarterfinals in the NBA's in-season tournament. I don't know where you were at the start of this in terms of the idea, the concept. So where were you on the in-season tournament? And after seeing how invested the players were, nevertheless fans and the excitement it brought in the building last night, what do you think of this concept and how it's worked in year one?
Right. Well, I mean, look, I was in Indy last night for that game, and it was phenomenal. It was great. I mean, and I wrote that this is, for all the things that the NBA has tried to, package about this in-season tournament, just kind of the only issue I have with the in-season tournament, Craig, is not the idea of the in-season tournament. It is the NBA doing what the NBA always does when it tries to market something and insist that you love it or you don't like basketball. You know what I mean? Like, it just pounds you on the head with in-season tournament. You've got to get excited about this or you hate puppies. You know what I mean? Like, that's how they do it. They just bang you on with it for weeks and weeks and weeks, But, it's been good. I think it's been a net plus. The other thing is, I just wish they would acknowledge that the reason they're doing this is because they want to sell this for $1 billion to somebody. And that's okay. Just say it. Just be honest about why you're pumping this thing. But Halliburton was great. It was a great atmosphere. The crowd was into it. He played great. I thought it was a very competitive game. The tournament's been good. I think it's been good for the most part. I think Jaylen Brown was honest yesterday at shoot around. He was like, I'm gonna hold my answer until the end of the season. He didn't dismiss it out of hand, but he was not all rah-rah. It was just the best thing that ever happened. But I think it's been generally good. It's been generally good to give the players something to break up the monotony of a long season. I think that is a fair criticism and a fair reality about any sports league, but certainly NBA, NHL, baseball. It's a long season. It gets tedious, and to give them something additionally to kind of compete for and get their compete juices going. And that to me has been a net plus, is that I think more guys, competitive nature, and these are the most competitive people on earth. I think that's a good thing to get them to kind of go, hey, as long as we're here, let's try to win this thing, And so I think that's been a plus. And so I can't knock it. I think it's been pretty good. There was good basketball in November before the in-season tournament, and that's just kind of like what concerns me is this notion that it's only the in-season tournament that makes guys play hard in November. No, a lot of guys play hard in November. You're just not paying attention because you're watching football. And that's okay, but don't denigrate them because you're not interested in it. You know what I mean? So that would be my concern about it. But in the main, I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's been fun when you get to see these guys and their care level turned up to like super as opposed to regular season, which is still highly competitive, but there's a different level, of course.
Sure.
I think it's been really fun to watch. And yeah, Halliburton was insane last night.
Sensational. Sensational.
David Aldridge, the Kirk Gowdy Award winner, Basketball Hall of Famer, and senior columnist at The Athletic, where you can read his coverage from Indiana last night. You can read his coverage of the Commanders as well. DA, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir, and I'll see you at FedEx again in a couple weeks.
All right, Craig. Thank you for having me, sir.
As always, it is our pleasure. That is David Aldridge with us here on The Hoffman Show.
This is The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.